This is Calvin's heart at age 4. It's red and robust and strong and growing and filled with excitement as Calvin jumps from bed on a fine summer morning. It feels no strain as Calvin bustles about his room selecting his clothes in an effort to dress himself. This'll make Mom and Dad proud of me, Calvin thinks as he puts his shirt on backwards and forgets to zip his trousers. I'll run downstairs and eat and show Mom and Dad I dressed myself and then go play with Tommy next door all day down at the creek. Calvin runs downstairs through the living room toward the kitchen and breakfast, but as he does, he brushes up against a table and knocks over a lamp. His father observes, grabs Calvin by the arm and shakes him. "Calvin," he says, "you're the clumsiest boy I've ever seen. Stop running around the house and settle down." That breaks a little piece of Calvin's heart. But he remembers the clothes and the creek and Tommy, and he bounds into the kitchen to announce, "Mom, look, I dressed myself." "Oh, Calvin," she says, "you did it all wrong. Your shirt's on backwards and your pants aren't zipped. I don't know what I'm going to do with you. And I bet you left your room a mess to boot." Another piece of Calvin's heart breaks off. "Sit down and eat," his father shouts, "and try not to make a mess." Calvin tries, but to no avail. His milk winds up on the floor. "Enough," his mother shouts. "Calvin, you just can't seem to do anything right. Up to your room with you. You can spend the day there thinking about the mess you made and clean up that pigsty while you're there." Calvin begins to trudge upstairs. His father's voice follows after him. "You're a big disappointment, Calvin. A big disappointment." And as Calvin reaches his room, he flings himself on the same bed from which he had eagerly jumped just minutes before. And another piece of Calvin's heart breaks too. This is Calvin's heart at age 14. It's beating wildly today, filled with excitement from the news he was bringing home from school. Wait till they hear, he thinks. I got an A on my test and I made the football team all in the same day. Calvin bursts through the back door with a bang. Calvin's mother shouts from the kitchen, "Calvin, how many times have I told you not to slam that back door? Quit making such a ruckus." Calvin races into the kitchen. "Look, Mom," he says, "I got an A on my paper and I made the football team. Here, you want to see my test?" "Not now, Calvin," his mother says. "I'm busy fixing dinner. Go show your father." "I think you're too small for football. You'll get hurt." "Look at my test, Dad. I got an A, and I made the football team," Calvin says as he races into the living room. His father is reading the paper. He doesn't look up. "That's nice," he says. "Go get ready for dinner. And why aren't your chores done? There'll be no football unless the grass gets mowed. I'm tired of harping at you, Calvin. Run along now. I'm busy." As Calvin makes his way to his room, his father's voice follows after him. "You're a big disappointment, Calvin. A big disappointment." And a little more of Calvin's heart breaks away. This is Calvin's heart at age 25. It's filled with love today and excitement and hope. I know she'll say yes, Calvin thinks. I know she loves me too. It'll be great, the two of us, and maybe we'll have kids. All evening his heart nearly bursts as he wines and dines the girl he loves. Finally, moments before he pops his question, she says, "Calvin, I won't be able to see you again. But I, why?" "Tommy and I are in love," she says. "But we'll still be friends, won't we? But I. Good night, Calvin." And as Calvin watches her walk away, he hears a little voice from deep inside say, "You're a big disappointment, Calvin. A big disappointment." And his heart nearly breaks in two. This is Calvin's heart at age 40. It's excited today and beating a little fast, but it knows that if the boss approves that new marketing idea, it will mean a big boost to Calvin's career. It flutters slightly as Calvin walks into the boss's office to hear his decision on the idea. "It's a good plan," the boss says. "I think we'll use it." Calvin's heart swells with pride. "But," the boss continues, "I want a younger man to manage it. We need youth and vitality to manage a new program like this. With this much money invested, we can't afford any disappointments. Here's a $100 bonus for the idea. Go back to work now, Calvin. And on the way back to your office, tell young Johnson I want to see him. Calvin obediently delivers the message to Johnson and returns to his desk. No disappointments, Calvin thinks. They can't afford disappointments. And from somewhere inside, Calvin hears a voice say, "You're a big disappointment, Calvin. A big disappointment." Another chunk of Calvin's heart falls to the floor. This is Calvin's heart at age 70. It's brittle now and scarred and filled with regret at what might have been. It's not fair, Calvin thinks. I lay here on my deathbed with just minutes till the end, and I'll die not knowing why I never accomplished much, or enjoyed much, or loved much. What did I do wrong? Where did I fail? Why were so many others able to do so much while I accomplished so little? I don't know, Calvin thought. I just don't know. I guess I'll die not knowing. And as Calvin closes his eyes for the last time, the last words he hears come from somewhere deep inside. You're a big disappointment, Calvin. A big disappointment. And then his heart broke forever. You are not a disappointment. Most of us spend our entire lives trying to please someone else, trying to live up to someone else's standard. How ironic that we should spend our time trying to meet a standard that we perceive someone else has imposed upon us, when in fact others have enough difficulty determining what they expect from themselves, let alone what they expect from us. It's natural enough that in our early years we attempt to live up to someone else's standard. As children, we have no other criteria upon which to base our conduct other than the standards established for us at home. Eric Berney, in his work on transactional analysis, describes this as adopting a "you're okay, I'm not okay" posture. Here a child attempts to emulate the conduct of adults and, of course, in most instances, fails miserably. With each failure, we're told either outright or by implication that our conduct constitutes a disappointment to others, and the first seeds of self-depreciation are planted in our minds. As the years progress, we try to meet other standards. As we, more often than not, fail to achieve those standards, those seeds of self-depreciation are nourished until they become a strong and semi-permanent part of our psyche. We wind up, quite literally, with a little voice inside who keeps whispering to us, "You're a big disappointment, Calvin. A big disappointment." Yet there is only one person on this earth who we truly have to please, and we can't please him entirely so long as there remains so much as a whisper within our minds telling us we're a disappointment. That one person, of course, is the guy in the mirror. He is the ultimate arbiter of your self-worth. He is the guy with whom you must live. He is the guy with whom you must sleep. He is the guy who must fully and unconditionally support your every idea and effort. Of all the people you know, he is the only one you'll die with. Indeed, it's been said the number of people who attend your funeral will be determined largely by the weather that day. He's the only fellow you know you can count on to be there. The efforts we undertake to improve our rating within our inside mini environment must begin from this foundation. The only person we are trying to please is that guy in the mirror. We must begin by asking ourselves, who am I now? What am I now? Why do I hold the particular attitudes I hold? We often tend to sell ourselves short and to hold self-defeating attitudes because of unpleasant past experiences. It's our responsibility to constantly hold those old, self-defeating attitudes up to the light of current reality, and to measure them against what we honestly can do now, what we honestly can be now. No one else will do it for us. Mirror, mirror on the wall, am I short or am I tall? Am I old or am I young? What is my idea of fun? Am I selling myself short just because of some past hort? That was supposed to be hurt, but I couldn't make it rhyme. What do I really want to be? A millionaire? A bum? A tree? Surely I should read a book to study life and better look, and if that yacht I will own, I'll have to do it all alone. No one else controls my life. I can choose success or strife. Yes, mirror, mirror on the wall, you and I can earn it all. Here is some logic with which we can all agree. First, our ability to succeed depends on our ability to conduct ourselves in a manner consistent with our own personal level of potential. Second, our ability to conduct ourselves in such a fashion depends on our own self-image, that is, in our belief in our ability to utilize our full potential. Third, others can and frequently do reduce our self-image by telling us either outright or by implication that we do not possess all the potential that we do in fact possess. And fourth, their appraisal of us can act as a self-fulfilling prophecy by reducing our own level of self-esteem and therefore our success. In other words, we frequently play roles in order to fit the image that others have laid out for us. Children are the best example of this phenomenon. Tell a little boy that he's serious-minded and a deep thinker, and he'll act serious-minded and like a deep thinker. Tell a little girl that she is frivolous and carefree, and she'll act frivolous and carefree. Tell a child that he's no good in math, and he'll be no good in math. Tell him he displays a knack for English, and he'll display such a knack. Adults are no less immune to the process. Tell an impressionable young salesman, you can't sell that, and he probably won't. Tell an impressionable young lawyer, there's no way you can win that case against old Counselor Smith, and he'll probably lose. Unfortunately, for adults, most of these self-fulfilling prophecies are conveyed on a more subtle level. By implication, the rest of the world may say to you, an individual with your education and in your age group should only be earning X number of dollars per year. Or, a woman in your position should be glad to have the job, let alone a salary increase. Or, even more subtly, of course there is no reason for you to take that idea of yours seriously, since obviously none of us take it seriously. In a nutshell, we let the rest of the world program our potential. We let them tell us what we're capable of doing, when by right and design it should be exactly the other way around. In sum, the most formidable obstacle most of us face in increasing our Y rating in our inside mini environment is the expectations of others. If other people are, by definition, average, then, by and large, expectations regarding us are probably going to be average as well. Rather than permitting others to assign us to average roles, we must be assertive enough to establish and then live up to our own. If our personal level of competence and conduct does not happen to neatly fit into the image of mediocrity that someone else has comfortably carved out for us, then that irreconcilable difference is their problem and not ours. The chances are excellent that by acting in a manner consistent with our potential, we'll surprise some people, for such conduct will not neatly fit into the image they have established for us. But better to surprise others, even unpleasantly, and utilize our full potential than to waste away that potential in an effort to comply with and conform to a mediocre mode that others have established. How do you see you? It is your image of you that's important. Unfortunately, we often receive so much input from others in the form of self-fulfilling prophecies that we find it difficult to reach an objective personal appraisal of our potential. Let's utilize the Einstein or logic mode we discussed earlier to achieve a fair and objective evaluation of your true potential. To get to the bottom of matters, we'll make some lists. Please turn to page 5 of your appendix. Under the heading, How Others See Me, using synonyms, list all the ways that others see you. For example, your list might read like this: How others see me: frequently forgetful, boring, sometimes loving, easy to fool, good-natured, fat, average intelligence, average ambition. Now, under the heading, How I See Me, again list all the words that describe you, except this time, don't worry about how others perceive you. Instead, describe the real you, as only that fellow in the mirror can do. Your list might read like this: How I see me: never forgetful, exciting, loving, fit, intelligent, ambitious, astute. Now, under the heading, My 5 Strongest Characteristics, enter the 5 things about you that you like most. Your list might read like this: My 5 strongest characteristics. 1. I have an exceptionally good humor and I share it with others. 2. I am exceptionally good at managing figures and am therefore extremely competent at my job. 3. I have the ability to make others want to share their innermost thoughts with me. 4. I am a very good parent and work hard at raising my children. 5. I am in very good physical condition. Now, under the heading, My 5 Weakest Characteristics, list those 5 characteristics about you that you like least. Your list might read like this: My 5 weakest characteristics. First, I have great difficulty expressing myself honestly to others. Second, I am too frequently intimidated by others. Third, I am frequently selfish and overbearing at home. Fourth, I smoke too much. Fifth, I permit myself to become too easily depressed. Please look again at the lists you have made. Forget the opinions of others for a moment and carefully study the 3 remaining lists. Evaluate each entry on each list. Does each entry honestly reflect your personal appraisal of yourself? Or are you simply repeating what others have been whispering in your ear all these years? Is your appraisal based upon honest self-analysis? Or is it merely the self-fulfilling prophecy of someone else? Who is that guy in the mirror? Are his characteristics best described on the list entitled, How Others See Me? Or are his characteristics best described on the list that you have made? Whose expectations shall that guy in the mirror try to fulfill? Shall he continue adopting attitudes and actions consistent with the descriptions of others? Or shall he begin today, completely and unequivocally, to conform to his self-described potential? Now, please take a special look at the list entitled, My Weakest Characteristics. Do the items on that list accurately reflect those of your characteristics about which you are not pleased? If so, then regardless of what they are, I congratulate you, and I suggest that you add a 6th item to the list entitled, My Strongest Characteristics. That item should read, I have the ability to currently and honestly analyze myself and to list those characteristics about me with which I am not pleased. I recognize that through this ability I also have the ability to improve my conduct in each of the areas listed, because I know that identifying the problem is the first and most important step in the process of overcoming obstacles. When Henry Kissinger was Secretary of State, prior to his marriage, he spent a considerable amount of time pursuing beautiful women. He was once asked by a reporter, "Is it true that there is a special relationship between you and Jill St. John?" In his inimitable style, Kissinger responded, "Currently there is not. But she has not said that if nominated she would not run, and if elected she would not serve." In the space of a single brilliant statement, Kissinger made it clear that while he was still in the primaries, so to speak, with Jill St. John, that the contest was far from over. Too many of us spend our entire lives mentally in the primaries with no real expectation that our name will be on the ballot at the general election. We spend the primary contest, much as politicians do, showing the voters our stuff, hoping that the voters will give us the opportunity to compete by certifying our name as their candidate. Yet, unless we are, in fact, running for office, the only voting public with which we should be concerned is that elector in the mirror. No one else's vote is necessary for us to win the nomination. What are the things that you can become? What is the election you can win? On the bottom of page 5 of the appendix, list these goals, however general they may be. Outline the very limits of your potential as you see it today. In later chapters, we'll discuss the mechanics of goal setting. But for now, just find the words, the basic formula, the one notion that describes the things you know you can become. Write it down and study it. What have you decided about you? Who is that guy in the mirror? What strengths do you have? What weaknesses? What can that fellow make of his life? Now, look again in the mirror. Go ahead, take a long, long look. Smile at that fellow there. He's a hell of a guy. And shout these words: "I nominate myself to reach my full potential as a human being." Say it again. "I nominate myself to reach my full potential as a human being." Smile again at that guy in the mirror. Be nice to him. He's the best friend you'll ever have. He just proved that by nominating you for greatness. Now shout back at him and the rest of the world as loud as your lungs can bear: "I accept the nomination. I accept the nomination." You are not a disappointment. For no matter how many little voices may be buzzing around inside, it is only your voice that counts. It is only your voice that matters. And your voice has just told you that you are geared for greatness, designed for accomplishment, and engineered for success. The friction between Sir Winston Churchill and Lady Astor was legendary. One night they both attended a crowded party. Sir Winston had imbibed a little too much. Lady Astor, who had stationed herself across the crowded room from Sir Winston, suddenly turned to address her nemesis. A hush fell over the crowd as she addressed Sir Winston some feet away. "Sir Winston, you are drunk. What's more, you are very drunk," she snapped. The crowd remained silent as Sir Winston squared himself to address Lady Astor. "Lady Astor, you are ugly," he said. "What's more, you are very ugly. What's more, I'll be sober in the morning." While Lady Astor may have suffered from a terminal case of the uglies, it's nice to know that our personal shortcomings are, if we choose them to be, temporary, regardless of the weaknesses we may have listed before, and regardless of our ratings in each mini-environment when we conducted the case formula exercise for the first time. It's comforting to know that we, like Sir Winston, can be sober in the morning. The ability to change those characteristics about us which are unsatisfactory rests, first, upon our ability to make a critical evaluation of where we are now, as we have done, and second, upon our ability to start from there in realizing the potential that we possess.
This completes Side 1. Please fast forward the tape to the end